How is it going, everyone? I want to take you guys through some more Crimson Desert updates that have just dropped ahead of the big embargo lifting on March the 4th. One note is concerning some people as far as the additional playable characters. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. In fact, if it ends up the way that some people are speculating in, I think it would be the optimal way to handle it. So we'll talk about that. I do also want to mention a story that dropped back in late 2024. So this was a while ago, but a lot of questions have been raised about the length of the game. And back in 2024, they did outright give us an hours of content for the game. We'll talk that as well, and a note on PlayStation 5 performance. As you guys might have heard, PSSR getting a big upgrade, potentially. Crimson Desert gonna be one of the big showcase titles. We'll talk that briefly at the end of this video. But first of all, before we get into the video, I do want to once again give a heads up to greenmangaming.com. If you're looking to pick up a PC and Steam copy, link in the description box below. Use the code FEB15, or if you're watching this video in March, it'll be MAR15, MAR15. I'll leave it in the description box below. Use that code, you'll save 15%. You'll get the game for $59.49. You won't pay tax either. And the deluxe edition is available discounted if you would rather get that. First talk, a new tweet that the Crimson Desert Twitter account put out that has gotten people talking, noting Meet Damien, one of the two other playable characters you will be able to freely explore Pywell with outside of the main story. So this is leading to a lot of speculation suggesting that Cliff is going to be the primary main character throughout the main story, and you'll be able to switch to the other two characters throughout the course of the side content and exploring Pywell. To be perfectly honest, you guys, for a narrative-driven title that's going to be super lengthy, I prefer this. I feel like if you focus in on one character and his story from his vantage point, it's just gonna create a more focused and cohesive narrative. Obviously, you can do multiple characters and switching between them throughout the main story, but I do think that creates another hurdle. This game is already so incredibly ambitious that adding that layer to open world game design in terms of its core narrative, I just am okay with it just being primarily focused on Cliff telling his story. Obviously, the other two characters will be integral to the narrative, but in the sense of how the main story is playing out. Who is it from the perspective of it being just on Cliff? I don't think that's a bad idea whatsoever. And then when you're also talking about the two other characters, you're talking about different gameplay styles that they're gonna bring to the table as well. So I just think it adds a lot of layers when you're talking about the main story content is gonna be structured in a specific way that maybe it'll just be best if you focus in on Cliff. Obviously, there have been open world games that have had multiple playable characters. Look at Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2, you juggled between playing as Peter and Miles, and that worked pretty darn well. And then you're talking about games like GTA 5, of course, switching between main characters on that. But if they feel like the overall narrative and the core narrative was going to be executed in the best way by making the main story primarily revolve around Cliff, I think that's fine. We didn't even know that there were going to be other playable characters until relatively recently. That was an element of the game that I think did take some people by surprise. So you know what? If it's just exclusive to the open world content and the side content to play as them, I just think that's fine. I really don't have too big of a deal. It would actually be pretty cool if you had specific side quests that were tailored for those specific characters, that's how you get more of their backstory and more of their narrative unfolding as well. But again, the core narrative being focused on Cliff, I just think makes a lot of sense. All right, I do want to also note this. There has been so many questions about how lengthy Crimson Desert is. There was a reset era post from 2024, and it revealed the blogger's full notes from Pearl Abyss's IR session at Corp Day, noting a bunch of details about the game, and it was noted to offer around 50 to 80 hours of gameplay, having a definitive ending as a single-player game. Now, you might look at that and be like, hey, that was back in 2024. Well, that was in late 24, and a lot of the structuring of the game will be in place by then. I think 50 to 80 hours is what a lot of people are going to spend on the main story, and then I do think there's going to be a ton of optional content. But I actually saw quite a lot of people look at this and being like, oh, 50 to 80 hours, that seems kind of light for this game. And I'm just like, dude, 80 hours for, you know, even 100% completion? Like, what is the expectation of what $70 is gonna get you these days? If I'm gonna get 80 hours of quality content out of $70, dude, even if the main story rushing through it gets me 40 hours of content, That's a pretty good ratio when you're spending $70. If you're talking 80 hours of content, dude, not every game needs to give you 100 to 150 hours of content. 150 is crazy. I get that the game is super ambitious, but I also think when you're getting to that level of hours, again, I am scarred from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I just know that some games, when you get to that 100, 120, 150 mark, yes, there are games that have done it successfully. Red Dead 2, some of the Persona titles. However, there is absolutely that option of diluting the content in the game and making it a lot of sameness and making it not worthwhile. I would rather, given that this is Pearl Abyss's first major single-player title, focus on quality. If it's gonna be 55 hours to 60 hours for the main story for most people, and it's a quality 55 to 60 hours, that's more than enough. I think that is totally satisfiable. But again, that was from 2024. Things may have evolved a little bit, but at that point, the game was scheduled for 2025, so it wasn't that far out. And you're not talking about the content of the game, the core content, drastically shifting over the course of even 16 months. So yeah, 50 to 80 hours, if you go into that as a general baseline, I think you'll end up being pretty happy with the game. Lastly, I do want to note that PSSR 2.0 has been confirmed. Resident Evil Requiem will be the very first game to showcase the updated AI upscaling, and we already saw some before and after pictures, and Resident Evil Requiem has been incredibly well received for its PlayStation 5 Pro optimization. And given that we're going to get more details in March, and given that we know Crimson Desert is going to be PS5 Pro enhanced, they've made that abundantly clear, and they've been fairly coy about the optimization of the game. This leads me to believe that the reason they were being fairly guarded with the optimization is because they're waiting for this announcement. I'm sure there's some other optimization specifics that are still going through, but as far as one major piece of the equation, PlayStation 5 Pro getting this updated PSSR was going to be a massive deal, and really for Crimson Desert, I think it'll be a legit system mover for the PS5 Pro. At the end of the day, it really does matter how this game runs on the base console, because overwhelming majority amount of people are gonna be on the base console. For those of you that have the PS5 Pro, it's gonna look better. PSSR 2.0 is probably going to take it to the next level, but we really need to know how the base console is going to be running the game, because at the end of the day, that's how most people are going to be playing the game, and hopefully it's a worthwhile performance level. But looking at the system requirements, man, it's not like the PC system requirements are that hefty. I could even end up seeing this game being Steam Deck verified. You know, obviously not getting 60 FPS or anything like that, but we'll see how all of that turns out. I'm sure the optimization notes will be coming soon, but given that now PSSR 2.0 has been officially confirmed, that's a big piece of the equation, and we're going to get more details about that in March. And I wouldn't be surprised if Pearl Abyss is letting PlayStation do the rollout and then announcing Crimson Desert or showcasing Crimson Desert on the machine as well to give it a huge boost in terms of that level of presentation. But that'll do it for me. Again, a bit of concern from some people about the optional characters, the other characters only being playable in the side content and the open world content outside of the main story. But honestly, if they feel like there's a more cohesive narrative to be told with just Cliff, I think that's fine. That's not a big deal to me, at least. As far as hours of gameplay, look, 16 months ago, it was noted 50 to 80 hours. I think that's a general baseline to go in with, and I think most people will be happy with that as long as the quality is there. I'm more so about the quality of the content rather than the sheer amount of content that's there. I don't want an Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You guys know that. And PSSR 2.0 has been confirmed. I would imagine Crimson Desert going to be one of the big showcase titles, especially as it's dropping in March, PSSR 2.0, and then March 19th is the release. That makes all the sense in the world. Everything's lining up for that for sure. That's going to do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you do want a PC copy, again, Green Man Gaming for that. That'll do it for me. Your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.